Alicia and Derek had known each other for a while, and they'd had a consensual, intimate relationship. But during one sexual encounter, Derek removed the condom without Alicia's consent or knowledge. This is called stealthing. When Alicia realized what had happened, she was devastated. She reported the incident to her school, but told administrators she didn't want to see another black man go through what she called a criminal process. But she also didn't want to just ignore what happened. She needed Derek to take accountability. She needed him to understand how the experience left her feeling betrayed. She needed an apology. She needed to be heard, and to hear him admit that stealthing was sexual assault. A traditional conduct process isn't designed to meet those needs. So when given the option, Alicia wanted to try restorative justice. Derek agreed. Although Derek had already arrived at a place of willingness to confront the fact that he had hurt her, he wasn't ready to call what he did sexual assault. That's where preconferencing came in. Trained facilitators pre-conference with each person separately. Support people for both are also included. In this case, the pre-conferencing took 9 months to get each person to a place of readiness to meet. For Derek, the pre-conferencing included counseling and education on stealthing so he could start to grasp the impact. For Alicia, pre-conferencing was a way to begin her own healing journey, and a chance to figure out what she wanted from the restorative justice process. Restorative justice is far from one size fits all. In fact, many institutions offer a menu of options, allowing impacted parties to choose what type of restorative process suits their needs. In cases of gender-based misconduct, 3 types of restorative justice intervention often used are conferences, shuttle facilitation, and circles. This guide will explore each of these restorative processes and discuss what's possible for cases of gender-based misconduct. Before we dive into the details, let's quickly review some RJ 101. Restorative justice is a harm-centered model rooted in Indigenous culture that asks 3 central questions. 1. What is the harm? 2. Who is impacted? And 3. How can we repair the harm to the extent possible? This is a vastly different approach to most traditional conduct processes that instead seek to determine who broke what rule and how they should be punished. In that case, punishments tend to be passive, like suspension or expulsion, which doesn't require the person responsible to do much of anything. Restorative justice, on the other hand, requires active accountability and actually repairing the harm to the extent possible. And it does so while humanizing the offender and offering them dignity, with the idea that all people are capable of growth and change. Restorative justice is informed by the victim's needs and is a personalized experience that centers on repairing harm in the way the person harmed sees fit. Thus, the nature of this process gives the victim back some control and facilitates healing. For Alicia, the opportunity to share her story and have it validated was key, and the Restorative Justice Conference created that space. A Restorative Justice Conference is a structured dialogue between the person harmed and the person responsible. Support people for each, and some impacted community members can also join. Questions facilitators could ask the person who caused harm include, what happened? At the time, what were you thinking? What have you thought about since? Who has been affected and how? What can you do to make things right? Questions for the harmed party include, what happened from your perspective? What impact did the incident have on you? What has been the hardest thing about this? What do you need? How can the harm be repaired? After discussing the harm, the parties work together to build a plan that addresses the harmed party's needs. For Alicia and Derek, the outcome included a no-contact order, and for Derek to continue counseling. He also offered a sincere apology. Other agreements could include community service, actions to educate the wider community, or a voluntary separation from the university, for example, until the victim survivor graduates. The key is that the agreement is something the impacted parties come up with themselves, rather than a resolution being handed down by a separate third party. Had Alicia not wanted to talk to Derek face-to-face, shuttle facilitation could have been another restorative option. In shuttle facilitation, The facilitator relays information and questions between the parties so they don't have to meet directly. The facilitator continues to remain multi-partial and allows the parties to come to their own agreement. Shuttle facilitation is the method used for preconferencing as well. Now imagine Derek didn't harm one individual, but instead he was part of an athletic team that encouraged others to stealth their partners. In this hypothetical scenario, a video surfaces that features Derek and several prominent student athletes stating unprotected sex feels better and encouraging other students to secretly remove condoms during sex. The video goes viral. In this case, Derek isn't the only person responsible. He's one of a dozen students who have participated in the harmful banter caught on video. Students across campus are outraged, demanding the institution hold the men accountable. The story has been splashed across local headlines, painting the university in a negative light. Several women have sought counseling after the video triggered memories and re-traumatization from past assaults. The impact has spread far and wide. In this case, a restorative justice circle would be appropriate. A circle is similar to a conference, but typically includes more participants that represent community-wide harm. The circle process is a facilitated dialogue with the community that has been impacted by the incident and its ripple effects, making it a useful tool to address not only specific incidents, but also the underlying campus climate or culture. Circle practices have a set of common elements, including the use of a talking piece to structure the flow of the dialogue and ensure equal opportunity for participation. There's also opening and closing activities to help build trust, and a series of guiding questions to help participants share their perspectives. You have just learned 3 types of restorative justice processes to resolve cases of gender-based misconduct. Great job. It's also okay to still have questions. Let's review some frequently asked questions about legal considerations. Given the requirement that the accused acknowledge the harm experienced by the victim, the question of legal implications resulting from restorative approaches is understandable. One option may be a waiver of the parties' right to pursue civil action against one another. An alternative form of protection could be a memorandum of understanding with the local prosecutor, who agrees not to use any evidence shared in a restorative justice process. When implementing a restorative justice policy, it should be made clear that any party has the right to withdraw from the process at any time. The process could be dropped or revert to a traditional conduct process based on the impacted party's request. Early research shows the concerns are worth working through, considering the benefits that restorative justice can have. According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 80% of female-identified students choose not to report sexual assault for various reasons. However, victim survivors have indicated that having options outside of traditional models motivated them to come forward. Since implementing the option of restorative justice a couple years ago, victim survivors at the University of Michigan have chosen restorative justice options 50% of the time. Restorative justice is not for every case, but RJ doesn't have to be the only option to be an option. Here's a testimonial from a person harmed at TCNJ. The restorative justice process allowed me to have a voice. It was definitely not easy, but I finally got the closure I needed. It allowed me to feel empowered. Broadly, restorative justice supports rather than stigmatizes, engages rather than isolates, empowers rather than silences, and teaches that meaningful accountability can rebuild a fractured campus community.
Created using Powtoon.